Hello. Hello, everybody. I got confused. I got a bit overbearing because, damn it, ladies and gentlemen, Mars One here with Nymera in the middle, and Melvin is on the opposite side. It's this way around, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really know. V3, Fukuoka Hawks, LJL OU here with it. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you both doing today?
I'm gonna say a little shaken. I feel like last week, getting a sense of deja vu. We were talking about hyping up that match and whatnot, and suddenly we've had a similar turn of fate.
Oh,
That we have. I was sat here bright and early this morning looking at stuff, and I see an announcement from the LJL official account and thinking, oh heck, that's not Mugen playing.
yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we must rip that band-aid off, as I love to have LJLOU terminology used frequently on the broadcast. By the way, check out our podcast if you're not already doing that. Link below. Anyway, we will be having Unica, our alumni of CGA from 2020 Spring Split, I believe it was,
Summer
Nymera.
Yoshi was spring.
Yeah. So Yoshi was spring, so
Unico was summer.
Unico was summer. Okay. So still 2020 alumni, partially correct. I'll get partial credit for that one, I think, from teacher Nymera. With that said, he's coming back in, and this completely changes predictions for us. This changes the dynamic of the map, and we have commonly classed Unica as a coin flip player at best and a detriment to his team at worst. This was obviously when he was back on Crest Gaming Act. We haven't seen him on this academy roster. Coming over to you first, Nymera. Mugen was a huge piece of how V3 have been playing and performing. That gone, this is a downward trajectory that looks like an endless abyss now.
And if you look back to last playoffs as well, how did V3 succeed? It was through finding ways to get Mugen active early and upset the map. V3 are a very coordinated team when they are on form. You can play around jungle, support synergy, and you've even got players like Hog who can buy into the more macro style of play too before making their big team fight impact. But switching out a jungler is probably the hardest thing you can do in League of Legends. It is so ridiculously hard to change all of your systems to accommodate someone new coming into that role. So, I mean, Unica coming in, good luck to you. I hate to say it, but it feels like they've been set up to fail with such a late switch, unless they've been practicing for ages, and I don't know if that's the case.
Well, we've got a lot of things to unpack. I want to take it over to you, Melvin. What's your take on obviously the Unica Mugen switch? Part of this reason was down to obviously COVID. Ace was actually came down ill with COVID, so obviously all of our hearts go out to him, and we hope for the whole V3 and all of the LJL teams and the production, obviously in question, that are all doing well and keeping safe. What's your thoughts on this, Melvin?
So I have actually been a jungler who got subbed into a team at the last minute,
Really?
and we ended up subsequently winning that final. So it is physically possible.
Okay.
It's a very difficult trait, but one thing I
Like he's
will
talked
say,
about this before. Feel like
I
it's something
do
he's
because
proud
I don't
of.
have very much to talk about. But my main point here is V3 were on a downward trajectory. So potentially, this could be a spark of life they need to turn it around. I'm being very optimistic for them now. There's a reason that even before this news, I had the Hawks predicted 3-0. But point being, it can potentially act as something that could spin this series on its head, especially if they still have some of that coin flip aspect you were alluding to.
Well, we'll have to see how that does come out. The official stream has currently got the presence and win rate, and I'd love to just take the direction of our conversation currently over in that direction at the moment. It's comparing 11.14 to 11.15 at the moment. The picks and the ban rate. Reed, if I can get that up, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, to our producer Reed. Look at some of these rates, and obviously Gwen is probably the biggest one that's really obvious here, and Syndra's the other one. Obviously, the huge drop off in play rate around the world in general between 14 and 15. And obviously, Syndra had been seeing a little bit of play over here in the LJL, but now that's just gonna be jumping up like no tomorrow. Viego, still a big one. What's your thoughts, Nymera?
So the one which I keep zeroing in on is the Thresh, because we keep seeing a change towards huge hypercarry compositions from our top teams. I think that it is kind of weighed a little bit by how many Aphelios and Jinx games you see coming out of the likes of someone like Honey on Axes, out of the likes of someone like Utapon on DFM,
And you
and then of
blame
course.
them?
And no, you can't. And that's the thing. When you have players of that caliber, a Thresh really enables them, because suddenly it's not just, hey, this is actually a really good laning combo. It's how the hell do you shut down one of the best players in the LGL on a hyper carry when the Thresh is stood next to them? We saw CJ try to do that to Axes several times in their games in the other round one match, and it just didn't work. So I think Thresh is the pick to watch across not just this region, but global League of Legends. But this region in particular is really favoring that support.
Coming over to you, Melvin, as well. I'm interested, were there any of those picks there? Obviously, Nymera's already mentioned the Thresh. Or potentially, is there any picks that you haven't seen in that very quick lineup that you would like to see?
There's a couple ones that I've got some of the isolated stats for these teams right here. V3, they ban Renekton 87% of the time. That's something that definitely should come up this game if stats are to continue. Ziggs banned against them 47% of the time. These are the most important champions when looking at a draft with V3 in it. Pivoting over to the Hawks, they get rid of Karma in 79% of their games. Similar story, and Lucian is taken away from Dasher 70% of the time. If these four champions aren't in one way or another addressed in this draft, I imagine it is going to be snap picked by the opposite team.
Yeah, there's a lot there to actually unpack just when it comes down to the champions, the matchups. Ooh, start talking about some of this stuff, and I actually want to bring it over to our first player graphic for the LGL OU, and I want us to take it over to Corporal's direction, please. Read. Corporal is a player that we have been bigging up a large amount, and he has some phenomenal stats when you actually start going through on a team that had a pretty struggling time. Run me through Corporal, Melvin, as well, if you would.
This player has been an extreme playmaker for the team, very lively in the games, and I feel like mixing them with Dasher has been the main way that this team has found such success. 7-7 in the regular season, their highest record to date for the Hawks, and I think it has been no small part down to just the sheer power that Dasher can make tied up with Corporal.
Yeah, and Corporal has just been like a pivotal force of the Hawks in a lot of opportunities. I mean, that experience difference at 10, that just shows that the side of the Hawks, Corporal and Zenit are finding something. And what about you, Nymera? Where do you want to how do you want to highlight Corporal?
Because yeah, stats on their own sometimes not that useful. Use it to frame something. XP difference at 10 for a support, I think that's an important one to look at, because sometimes you do have early roams from a support, but in the LGL, most of the time, this is going to be effectively the experience you get is going to be how well you're doing in lane, how well you're holding your own, what's happening in the 2v2, and that's how you kind of tell that from a support side of things, rather than your CS difference at 10, XP difference at 10 from an AD carry. Being up in that in a league which does have Honey and Nemo, does have Utapon and Gang, Sol and Secret, that's actually really not a bad stat to have as an accolade. Of course, I'm looking through at stuff like the kill participation too. Even though they aren't roaming super early and getting evolved across the map, that's still a high kill participation. Anything around that 70% mark is suddenly thinking, oh wait, they're a jungler at this point. What the hell? And that is actually quite high on there. And the fact that they play engaged supports with that kind of KDA is nothing to sniff at either. All of those numbers are completely relevant in painting part of the picture, which is Corporal and how important they are to the Hawks.
And he was so important. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, he did end up securing the spot for second team All-Pro team. That we gave that award over to him and a fellow teammate Dasher of the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming. The top two teams outside of being, honestly, Detonation Focus Me or Honey. So pretty high regards. Honey obviously is already through to the first round, to the second round of playoffs. So we'll be excited to see him. Maybe we'll see other people joining him. I want to do the support matchup though, because I am the support main of the LJLOU, and I want to take it over to my boy Rainer. He represented the LJL at 2020 at Worlds, and as on his Thresh, he's 4-0 at the moment, gentlemen. And these are some nutty stats, aren't they?
Well, wonderful. He's never going to get thrashed. It's going to be banned. Like I said, don't let the champion through in this region. And this is one of the players which shows you exactly why. Look at those numbers. They're very, very scary.
Facilitates aggression, facilitates hyper carries, even the zigs that we do see from V3. These are all just things that the second Thresh is in a draft, it just warps everything. And Reiner is one of those players that's so good on the champion that you have to give it that merit. There's a reason they're 4-0 on it.
Not only are they 4-0, but just looking at some of these stats just in isolated matchups, when we were just looking over at Corporal, these are incredible. A goal difference of 178. That's like an extra 2 control wards just chilling out. More vision control. KDA 8.4. He has to be stealing some kills here, gentlemen, at some point. And I love this because we've got the high priority on Thresh. Gentlemen, I want to bring it over to both of you on the desk. What are we expecting then if Reiner isn't going to be able to get Thresh, and potentially that Leona and Rakan might be highly contested? Are we going to be seeing some pick and bans in those directions? We did see Thresh bans in the previous series of Crest Gaming versus Axis. What are you thinking, Nymera?
So last playoff series was not just the story of how Mugen would get on his Olaf and trash people first picking Hecarim, which was of course a sizable part of how V3 made their way to the finals, and even took a game off of DFM in that spring split. Remember, V3 have now had, a finals into a second place finish, championship into second place finish from the LJL in the last 2 splits. They're looking to, get themselves another record to hold themselves up. It was also in spring, Reiner on Rel looked like an absolute beast. I'm wondering if he's picked up something else for this playoffs that he's really just been hammering hard down on, and then that kind of becomes their pick of the meta. But as you're right, I think that will facilitate support bans in this matchup.
What about you, Melvin?
The Rel is one that does spring to mind. It is something that is just hidden away. Got some buffs a while ago. Make it so they can crash down a lot more frequently in lane, making them a bit more favorable against some of these other kind of supports like the Leona, the Nautilus, the Rakan, etc. That while they can interrupt, it does mean now there are more windows for Rel to look for these things if the enemy support ever goes astray with their engage. Especially trying to shut down Zenit, who has become the secondary carry effectively for the Hawks. I really do like that as an option for something that V3 could look towards if they're going to take this game.
My pick as well, ladies and gentlemen, Alistair. I expect Alistair to be huge in this series, but we'll have to wait and see if we do get the cow. Can we milk those or not? Gentlemen, I want to take it over to our mid lane and top side of this map. But the first off, it's far more important that we talk about the other all-pro contender from the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks Gaming. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Dasher. Dasher has been an MVP caliber player, one of the highest, most competitive players. And I mean, Melvin, I've got to come over to you for some of these ones.
Get him, Callum.
What is going on with this man's stats?
All right, you can have the Church of Arya, but I am a humble member of the cult of Dasher over here. This kill participation is insanity. Dasher has the stat under their belt. They are the 3rd place in the entire league for first blood percentage, only behind Steel and Mugen at 53%. That means if there's a first blood, you can flip a coin, and odds are Dasher was not only facilitating it, but a member of it. For a mid
Does he have to be on the Rift?
Insanity.
Do you just any game is just Dasher turns up and takes the kill, or?
Well, when like the Doombots were in, they had the Garens that were randomly in the bush. Every now and again, there's just a Dasher that pops out as a LeBlanc and just first bloods you on the Scuttle Crab. It is scary stuff to deal with.
Suddenly, out of the mists, a Dasher had appeared, and he claimed second all-pro team. Nymera, Dasher's having, honestly, kind of the trajectory that every pro player wishes they could have going into playoffs, and these stats only represent part of that story, don't they?
Yeah, because Dasher, for such a long time now, before even we started covering this league, has been a top tier player in the LJL. They have been on, I believe they're on USG before they ended up over on the Hawks in 2020, and they were a top 3 to 2 mid laner. I believe Dasher is the only player to have beaten Aria's LeBlanc, if we're going to go talk about the difference and, difference in
Ooh.
diocese between these two religious figures in the LJL. But yeah, I mean, Dasher has been such an aggressive, facilitating, that's a word I feel like I'm going to continue using today, laner in this league, which has made such an impact on us.
Not only has he made a huge impact, he has been one of the driving forces for the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks gaming over the last few weeks, really to look super good over. Honestly, since Super Week, I've been honestly getting more and more impressed with the Hawks, the trajectory, the stats, and I mean, Dasher has been a huge part of that, obviously alongside with Corporal and multiple other members of the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks team. But we're forgetting one very, very important member of the V3 lineup that honestly kind of changed so much of how we saw the dynamic of this team work going in between summer and spring of 2020 coming to 2021. Obviously, Paz left and went over to Sengoku Gaming, and that meant the top lane was going to be vacant. We saw Cog come into the top side, and what a performance he's been having. He's got maybe one of the widest champion pools in
Yep.
the LJL, especially in the top lane, only really rivaling Ebby with that. He will gladly play the Tom Kench. He will gladly play the Ivan Callum. Like, there's just so much this man will do. And I want to take it over to you first, Nymera, because this is a player that we was a part of that Rascal Jesters roster in 2020 spring that we
Oh,
were
gosh.
so hyped about and loved watching.
Yeah, because we came into 2020, of course. We watched Rascal Jesters have one of the best series that we have covered in that first round match of spring 2020. So that's a year and a half ago now. And Cog might not have been the focus of that series, but he's slowly crept up and up on the radar. Summer 2020 Rascal Jesters was an absolute dumpster fire of a team. They got absolutely hit by visa issues during the COVID pandemic, and meant that they couldn't have that all-star team, which we were expecting to reprise its performance from spring. Cog escaped that roster coming into this year, although of course Rascal Jesters have gone on a completely different flight path we're going to keep talking about for trajectories. And Cog has been the player who has really managed to improve themselves and become kind of like a real rival to Ebby for one of the first times in the LJL's history.
Yeah, he's a player that has never really risen to that highest of highs before. He's hit the precipice, but this is now the split where we saw him rivaling Ebby in that top lane. Another player that will be getting to see rival Ebby soon will be Kanatu, and that was another player that Cog was definitely having some really close matchups with, and I loved watching it. I want to take it to you, Melvin Izzle, just to close us out with these player graphics. What do you think of Cog? Obviously, he is that flexible player that has played one of your favorite champions.
Flexibility is so essential for a best of 5. If you cannot jump from pick to pick and be able to morph how the games go, then you might even end up seeing a repeat of last week where we saw CGA effectively allow the salty run back for game 1 and 2, receive 2 consecutive losses in similar fashion. You need to be able to warp things, change it how you go. If you can't go to a completely different style, especially in the top lane where counter picks are so prevalent, then frankly, it's just a weight on your team, and I do not think Cog is that.
Oh, we'll find out with that matchup currently going, gentlemen. It is important that we do this lovely thing, and that is talk about our predictions. And we've got a rather wide berth of our predictions. I do want to make it clear to our audience out there that I did give my predictions prior to being aware of Unica coming in. So, gentlemen, I want to bring it over to you first, Nymera. 3-1, is that still your current prediction?
So this obviously came in before we saw the substituted Mugen out for Unica, and I think that changes my prediction too. I think I would go actually and agree with Melvin Izzle, who I don't know whether he looked into a crystal ball, looked into the strands of fate or whatever, did predict the
His
3-0
printer told him.
already. His printer told him that's a very scary.
I ran out of Reddit. Clear.
Is it like a Ouija printer? Have they moved on from boards now? Have they moved on to like higher level hardware?
he just explained it didn't have red ink. If it had green ink still, it would have been fine. If they
Right,
kept the
gotcha.
logo green, that's it.
Right, right,
Mm.
okay. Well, I think I'd switch over to a 302, of course, it's on the graphic there, but holy heck, this last-minute substitution cannot be good for V3.
No, I mean it's pretty catastrophic. Melvin, explain us. Crystal ball, hidden printer, Wuji printer. What was your prediction? Why was it 3-0 initially? And would it still be the case?
I think it would stay as a 3-0, but if anything, I'm a little bit less confident now because the reason I had 3-0 is, and my logic was, it's either going to be a 3-0 for the Hawks if they win first game. Because I think if V3 come into this series on bad form, I find it difficult to believe they're going to be able to throw Hawks off of their game, which I think is the main thing that will change this series. But if they did lose the first game, I was like, okay, V3 could take this to a 3-2 quite easily. Now, I still think it's a 3-0 for the Hawks, but the reason I'm less comfortable is Unica could prove to be that spanner in the works for the Hawks.
I see. Now that there's a spanner in the works, you actually think there might be an opportunity for some nefarious action, and maybe the Hawks don't get the clean 3-0. I am changing my prediction, ladies and gentlemen, over to a 3-0 for the Fukuoka Softbank Hawks, because there's no way I can keep... Yeah, I can't stay with V3 for this. The fact is, Mugen, for me, was one of the most important players, and him not being there is just game-changing. It's just backbreaking more than anything else. I feel like so much of the soul of V3 that we saw in 2020 was through Boogie playing that jungle. I think Mugen has taken that mantle and flown beautifully with it, and not having the jungle that you've been working with for the full split, swapping out the very last minute. We already saw what a substitution swap did for Crest Gaming Act versus Axis. I think this is strictly worse versus probably maybe a better team. Gentlemen, what's your thoughts on that kind of assessment I'm making?
I mean, I thought that the Hawks were probably the best lower bracket team coming into our first two games, really. So I was looking at this thinking, yeah, you can't take it easy on them as V3. You know, Axes chose to chuck them on the other side of the bracket, and it's a difficult situation for V3 now, who are sat there, who I wouldn't have favored in the first place. Like I was saying, I did predict them to be a 3-1, and suddenly they have a whole different dynamic to work towards with who I consider to be a lower caliber player. This is disastrous for them, and then suddenly the Hawks are looking, well, they just need to keep their heads on straight and make sure that they're planning for this game rather than looking forward into the future, because this could be a very good game for them to really show their stuff, but they cannot trip up here just because they've been given the opening.
What's your thought, Melvin?
You've been given the opening, I think is the right way to say it. Looking at these teams coming into this series right here, in the first round robin, the Hawks, they went 3-4. Whereas V3, they were 5-2, an exponential difference. Then in the second half of the split, though, that flipped. The Hawks went from 3-4 to 4-3, and V3 finished with a record of 3-5 in the second round robin. They beat the Hawks in that portion, it must be said, but still, that is a catastrophic fall off from a team that was up there with Rascal Jester for the first 3 weeks, saying, ooh, which is the best? One of these two teams will be the top of the league for the moment. It's just gone all wrong for them.
Well, gentlemen, we are waiting with bated breath for our players to get back into champs. Like, I'm actually going to quickly see if we can go over to a very short break. We're on apparently our main stream is on Casters, so we're gonna go over to a very short break just so we can get everything over on the LJLOU side nightly tapped with a bow there to bring you the action when it does unfold. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. Our pre-show is finished here. We'll be back with our casters very shortly. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome everyone to the casting desk of the LJLOU for the second quarter-final series we have here today. V3 facing off against the Hawks to see who will be joining the upper teams, finding their way for the finals, and obviously the prize that hides at the end of finals. You had quite a bit to say on desk. Obviously, I feel like I'm getting judged.
I'm not gonna lie, I was looking at some information on a second screen, and I didn't realize that you become like LGL Braum. Very interesting. I'm enjoying your changing
it-
career profession.
It took about 10 minutes to get them to sit on my shoulders without just collapsing off every 30 seconds. It's been a lot of trial. I can't move. If I move an inch, they're just going to collapse onto the ground. So it's there we go. Yeah, we tried. We tried our best going in here, but coming in, we looked at our key players. You guys looked at key players on the desk. I want to revisit my two most important players, what I think will be, in which is that bottom lane in the support. So you guys talked about them on desk, Corporal and Reyna. I think they're just two of the most important players for some. I think we have I saw some stats pop up somewhere. I don't know if we can have them up, but specifically on the likes of Corporal, I think the utility that he brings is utterly ridiculous, and not only the utility, the playmaking. Right, when you look at both these supports, I see Corporal as like the sword. Right, he's going to make a play. He's going to do something that if his team is 5k goal down, it might recover them. It could put them 7k in the hole, but it could put them 3. So it's a really aggro style that I really, really hope to see. And then you face him off against someone like Reyna, who I would see is more of a shield and protector. Hell, we saw this. We saw that he's 4-0 on the Thresh right now, if nothing else. That is a ridiculous stat to be running coming into this season. Yes, I know Thresh is super popular, and as a member of the cult of Thresh, look, I'm always happy to see the Thresh Team Warden.
And it's really funny. It's really funny you mentioned that Thresh stat too, because I remember when V3 made their championship run, we noticed that Rhino had some really good stats on a couple of different champions. He was something like 5-0 on Thresh in summer 2020 regular season, and something like 5-0 on Tom Kench as well. His Nautilus had some good games. And suddenly thinking, oh heck, this guy's really, really good at playmaking. Looks like we're headed into that pick and ban though. So take us away, Midnight.
Well, kick things off. Unfortunately, the Thresh is the first victim of the pick ban list from the Hawks. They're not even letting the first pick from Reyna come through. I actually love that because you can't risk that going over to the wrong person. So I love that on the ban list. The Varus comes through here. Now, I think the big question that we're all asking for V3, what is the jungle pool looking like? Because I had a little bit of a scouting round. I looked at the replacement jungle. I'm like, okay, what do we got bringing to the table? 0 professional games this year. The last time that Yuhina played was in 2020 at the end of the split. So I'm really worried that a step onto the pro scene, it could just be a really rough transition.
And it almost certainly will be, because you're up against the Hawks, and as we were talking about on the desk, Unica is not a player we held in high regard. This is a player who was being a bit of a placeholder for CGA. CGA had some jungle problems in spring, that's why they switched over mid-split. Sadly, Yoshi was not really finding his feet within that team. And now Utica, once again, subbed in inopportune circumstances and given a chance to shine. It's going to be up against an Aphelios very early lock-in from Zenit. See what they're going to choose to pair that up with, because of course there is no Thresh. There are very few... you can lock in something like a Braum, I guess, in terms of another defensive pick, but locking in the Aphelios early is a statement in a lot of ways, but I don't know how you back that up so early into the draft, and that V3 can just try and play keep away on the Aphelios.
Yeah, I like the idea of it, right? Gives Zenit something that's super strong. He's going to be comfortable on the likes of the Aphelios here. Sure, it's not paired up with the Thresh, which is the signature we want to see, what we love to see, but there are still plenty of other champions that you can throw down there in the bottom lane. I'm still thinking, we talked about them earlier, Nautilus, Leona, I think Alistair's name got thrown in there, but that's Reyna. A lot of different possibilities you can see.
Well, Corporal is a huge Alistair player too, not just Reyna.
Exactly. So, I mean, Corporal put out a set. I still remember Corporal's set play in, I think, like one of the first weeks of this split. One of the first iconic things for me. So, Tussle on the volley bear, what a surprise. Like, this guy, his volley's up. He's taking volley every time.
And this is a really big change as well, because Tussle, I believe in a couple of the last games of the split, was trying stuff which wasn't the volley bear and looks a little out of sorts. I need to get the match history stuff for that, which I don't currently have, and I really should have thought about that one. And maybe V3 have had to think about what they were going to do in terms of against this Aphelios. You get to level 9 as the Jinx, you do outrange that kind of like-for-like hyper carry and what you want to be doing in team fights. You have yourself potentially a better teamfight jungler in the Diana as well that can wombo through onto the backline and be a damage threat far beyond what Volibear can be once it hits later stages of the game, because he falls off while Diana continues to output a lot of damage.
Yeah, what I love the hyper carries more than anything else, right? We're seeing the typical ones we've been talking about, especially for the last couple of weeks. Jinx, Aphelios. Now, the big question is obviously we see the not the Diana, the Leona locked in for the side of the Hawks. Then V3 have to ask the big question, well, what do they want to grab? What are they going to be allowed to? And my first thought, yeah, there he goes. Braum is the first thought I had to myself. What do you want here with the Jinx? You need protection. Stand behind Braum. Unfortunately, Braum has to spend this game on the bench.
They do, and Braum was the first pick, which I thought potentially the Hawks could go towards. Maybe even the Hawks could have locked in a Braum and then look to ban out some more aggressive supports on the other side and make sure that the Aphelios was truly safe. But they say, actually, we'd much rather have Corporal on an aggressive playmaker, as we've kind of set him up to be from graphics, from Spiel, and everything else. V3 not going to be focusing on the support pool, of course, because they need to keep their one ready to lock in at a moment's notice, and they will, however, have to go up against at least one blind pick solo lane. I know that, you know, the technically Volibear can go top, but that's not particularly likely. And, yeah, waiting now on what Hawks are going to lock in.
Yeah, I mean, again, you technically could put Volibear in Apperman's hand, but no, that's not happening. Let's be honest with ourselves here. It's Tussel's bread and butter. You're not taking that away from him. So Apperman, he's got. I mean, Gwen is still on the table. I know she received that nerf, but I still know that she's still pretty damn strong. So I'm a bit surprised she doesn't even get considered for this second round of bans. Instead, the Jace and the Azir fall victim to it. And now the Hawks have to decide. I think they have to look in Apperman's, whatever the Apperman is going to get here. I think you have to give Dasher the best possible matchup, considering what you guys talked about on the desk, right? Dasher is, you know, the leading murder man with this group.
Yeah, and we talked about, hey, we get ourselves a Tahm Kench. All right, cool.
Yes!
Ebby did it first, 2017. He's our resident Tahm Kench top lane player, but Apperman, not to be outdone in that regard. Apperman also one of the old guard of the LJL top laners. Cog, Apperman, and Ebby really have stood the test of time alongside players like Paz too, still all currently in the LJL. Bring out some older picks to go along with that venerability. And it does leave now Dasher, one of our players of the split, one of our real powerhouses in the LJL, to to counter pick into the blind pick Orianna.
Yeah, but the question is, well, look at what are some of Dasher's best champions. Now, going off memory, the Lucian was up there. Well, Lucian's banned. The Syndra we talked about in the desk, she's gone. And LeBlanc, oh no, LeBlanc is gone as well. So Dasher's champion pool has basically been sliced of his signature picks that we would expect out of him. And it's the Silas as the answer. Oh, this is going to be good. If there is anyone in the Softbank, if the Hawks lineup that can force a first blood, it's going to be the likes of a Silas. This is exciting. It sounds like Namera's microphone is having a few problems with itself, so you know what? I will handle this for now while we're taking a look at both our lineups, because the Hawks have got a hell of a beefy front line here. The Tahm Kench and the Volibear paired up with Lexa Leona. Zenit should never die, right? You've got the protection of the Tahm Kench, the engage of Leona, and of course the likes of the Volibear. And Stylus just whipping those chains around like a psychopath is going to be just brilliant. But V3 have their own answers, and I think V3, what you have to be terrified of is the Venn diagram of death that they are bringing to the table. Orianna Shockwave, the likes of the Diana ultimate, narrowing them into the wall, and then Aurel pulling everyone in together. Like, V3, as we said, Namera's into the void, unfortunately, you're just stuck with me for now. So, V3 have got the, you team fight us and make up one tiny little mistake, we will send you back to base in a body bag, is what they're bringing to the table. And that is nightmare fuel for the likes of the Hawks, who, while they've got a great frontline that I talked about, well, they've got good protection for the likes of the Aphelios. I don't know what that character's name is whatsoever. All I know is they make that ayaya noise, which is probably not. Thanks. So they've got a really good amount of engage, but they basically have to engage before V3 have any sort of battle lines. Because if V3 set up a battle line, if V3 get their Mega Null with Noriana ball thrown on them, Hawks are really going to struggle unless V3 do like a sombrero. And honestly, I don't expect that kind of, those kind of mistakes to come out. Not from the players of these qualities, and especially not when we're hitting finals territory. So it's going to be a hell of an exciting series. Hopefully, Nightmare does join us back. I'm just going to double check. Nightmare. Okay, so Nightmare's internet has betrayed him, unfortunately. It's weird. Usually Australian internet's the one that stabbed you in the back, but we won't let that delay us any longer, as hopefully he will get dived into it. So, Twitch chat, might as well ask the chat what you guys are expecting from this game. A lot of analysts on the desk were putting Hawks in their favorite, partly because, of course, Muujin is not available for today's game, and V3 are going to have to change around that, and I think they've done that brilliantly. Again, look at V3's composition. It's not saying, hey, you need to technically execute a really good 2v2 in the middle lane with a Diana Oriana. Sure, it's good if you can, but it's not like, if you can't, it's not like a Renekton Nidalee or a Renekton Elise, where suddenly, if you don't get this certain strategy to work, everything just goes off a cliff. It's nothing like that. So V3's team fight setup is going to be brilliant. They've got the damage to do it. All they need to do is not fall behind. And I think specifically the lane to watch is going to be the likes of the middle lane. All right, because hello, it's Temporal. Hello, how are we going today, mate? So you've assassinated Nightmare and you've come to take his place, is what you've done here, Temporal. Is that what's going on?
I need to close the stream because I can hear us far too many times. How are you, Midnight?
I'm going great, man. I'm having a blast. I get to watch a team fight composition and a counter-engaged team fight composition, but head-to-head in the first match of a quarterfinal. I'm having a great time already.
It should be pretty good. I'm pretty excited. I was kind of worried. I saw the Aphelios and I saw Dan Orell locked into it. And I just thought, oh, you guys, you're really pushing it out here. It's a statement to say, you know what? We see the Aphelios. We can try and dive in anyway. When you get this conditional, it gets a little bit more difficult. So V3 definitely not choosing easy mode in game one.
But look at their again, as I said about their composition. If there is one thing that V3 can do, it's team fight and then diagram Hawks to death. Look at the number of circles Hawks have to work around. Diana, Oriana, Rel, and I'm basically going to count Coldcog's ultimate in there as well, because that's basically a weird looking circle, but a circle nonetheless into the wall.
You're allowed to explode one end of your circle. That's completely fine.
Exactly. You can make a broken circle. We've done it all when we were trying to draw circles and maps. I forget what subject it was. It wasn't exactly my forte there.
Geometry.
Is it geometry? I don't know.
It can be.
I almost said geometry, like the rock thing.
Oh.
No, it's geology. That's the element.
It says geology.
Shows how well my education life went, doesn't it? Well,
stay in school, kids. All right. Blitzcrankbot says it's a 56% angle for V3. That's a strong indication through the Aphelios.
Yeah, strong there. But I do want to ask you, Temporal, because obviously I didn't get to ask you during Pick Ban, because obviously you weren't here. But I'm very curious, where do you stand on who is the favorite coming into this? Because a lot of the desk have started with Hawks or shifted to Hawks after, of course, the substitute jungling situation. I've been a Hawks fan since week one, so there's no real surprise what I've said coming into this. But I'm kind of curious where you're coming from as the game does kick off. Nice and passive, at least for now.
Nice and passive for now, though. Corporal. Definitely not going to hang around forever. Oh, he is. He's on fire. Shoeies all round if SHG do come out with the 3-0. I'm a big Muujin fan, and I'm very sad that they are not here. I didn't exactly find out the reason why. Level 2 comes through and Corporal continues push down on Reiner's health bar. It would change my predictions, and I think the Hawks, as Muujin is a pivotal part of V3, are favored. So my 3-1 for V3 on the desk. Unfortunately, a prediction in the past. So I do think the Hawks are favored.
Well, Hawks so far doing well. Dasher doing about what you'd expect with him, getting some nice damage, although A's getting about even, honestly, and with better mana on the likes of the Orianna, should be right as rain in that middle lane. As what we did see from some action in bottom lane, Corporal just pressing up onto Reyna didn't really result in much. And now, both junglers on the bottom half of the map. Scuttle Crab is spawning in about 5 seconds. I wonder if V3 are looking to contest this. It looks like potentially, but they are on top of a ward. So the Hawks, the Hawks know what's up here, and V3, they're going to back away. That's a bit frustrating, isn't it?
It's got to be frustrating for V3's side, unfortunately, with priority in both of the lanes, even if they had found that magic gank onto the bottom lane, which was warded out. Softbank's Hawks knew that one was coming. It would still be risky, as Tussle could join any moment. So just going to let that one go. Would have maybe preferred to see Unica just turn it around, sprint straight to top, and it doesn't matter how fast you get there as long as you beat Tussle there. Instead, just going to take the extra camp. Not starting at the chickens does mean that will delay the respawn here on Unica's camps and will fall slightly behind in XP to the tune of about 300 or so.
Bit frustrating to get double scuttled. It's not as bad as it used to be. Before, I remember it used to be a thing where like people would legitimately teleport to make sure your jungler got access to the scuttle crab. Those are rough days as a solo
A bit
laner.
more
Now
relaxed now. Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit less when you get. I remember I was playing like this a normals game, and I had 3 TPs come to the bottom half of the map to contest the scuttle crab at level 2.
Crispy
I was like,
crab.
excuse you? I'm trying to jungle here. Can you not? So,
Jungling not allowed.
oh my
Corporal. Here we
this is a
go.
massive
Ace is
minion
going to be
away,
it.
but Dasher is feeling confident. Dasher goes in for the engage. Corporal gets the flash. The Xenoblade not connecting. Ace gets out in one piece, but Summoner Spell for Summoner Spell burnt.
That is pretty much in favor of Softbank Hawks at this stage. Sure, the Leona likes to have the flash at level 6, but you're not complaining if you make Ace vulnerable in this lane against the Silas. It is a small macro win, as we see the way that Na versus Tom Kench is meant to be played. No thank you, Europe last night. The Na continually applying pressure to the Kench, not allowing his healing and shielding to be most effective with that sustained damage. Push him under tower, bleed him dry of gold. If the Tom Kench does not get rich, eventually all of those base stats will fall away.
Yeah, but it takes a while, and even in the mid to later games, we talked about the risk that some of the squishier Hawks members might be in. Well, Apperman can always there to be their hero.
Oh,
we
yes.
might get some more skirmishing. Reyna is level 4. Corporal and Tussle might butt heads. The 2v2 between the junglers and the supports, but Corporal finds himself a bit too far forward. They're getting knocked up. This could be a disaster. The Hawks will lose Corporal for first blood at basically 6 minutes.
A little too eager, maybe. We saw Unica falling away. And then the Hawks only see Reiner go all in. And a little too much, a little too soon from the still level 3 Leona here. Corporal,
Yeah, I mean, I like
maybe just a bit too excited.
Yeah, I love the idea of it, right? And it's very signature Corporal. Look for a fight. It could go well. It could, unfortunately, not go so well. And it's heartbreaking when the plays don't go right for Corporal, but I'm going to say it, just give it time. Don't worry. OCE players have a lot of tenacity, if nothing else. So even if the first play fails, he's going to try again, and it might work the next time around, right?
I hope it does. I'd like to see this game go quite long. I think the sort of late game beautiful execution of Aphelios versus Dives, always so much fun to watch.
Should be.
Hope we get to see it realized here. That would be quite nice. Tussle's tussling with the idea of doing this Drake. Instead, he's going to move on up. He's going to pull his bot lane into the river. Maybe look for a fake moment here where the enemy team assume he's on the dragon. Looks like it's not going to happen. Ace still being very careful, very respectful of that lower side, and Tussle will show on vision a little too soon out into the river. So V3 know he's away from this dragon, and that means Unica's pathing can be adjusted accordingly. Camps will come up on the way down to this dragon, and the Diana can look for a team fight now with that Moonfall.
Yeah, it can look for something. Wants to get a recall. Probably has enough for a pretty good item. Probably, yeah, there it is. Has the alternator ready to go. So say, hey, look, I can come bot lane. I can see what I want to do down here. As Tussle obviously had to go back topside, had to get his red buff up, go clear Krugs, go to the bottom half. But what I like about Tussle's pathing is how mid-centric it's been. We talked about how important Dasher is for the team, obviously. He's a very aggressive player, typically gets first bloods more often than not. Obviously, this game, it was his teammate Corporal who did get cut down a little bit first. But the fact that we are seeing such a mid-heavy focus from Tussle now kind of tells me that Ace is going to spend the rest of this series getting just camped. And it really sucks to be a mid laner, especially the likes when you're playing Orianna, who your only mobility is the flash key. And surprising no one, it's not up that often.
No, once every 5 minutes or so, or thereabouts, especially if you're receiving a lot of jungle attention. That mid lane matchup, top of our narrative sheet, behind the scenes glimpse there, as I had to quickly review that one again last night. And then, it's sort of the way to play for V3. They like having Ace enabled and ready in this mid, even if he isn't the focal point of attention. They will play to it. And, yeah, I'm a little bit amazed Unica is now significantly ahead of Tussle on XP. That is something we wouldn't expect given the double scuttle. So Unica definitely paying due diligence there, and sure they got some XP out from the first blood, but a little bit more accelerated than Tussle in this jungle, going a little bit faster.
And it does have something to do with the fact that Tussle has spent a while just sort of hanging around the mid lane, right? He spent, I think we saw 2 extended periods where he was trying to set up a gank, and now, well, Hawks has said, screw phasing. We've got an OCE support. We're playing Australia lanes. We're going upside down here, and they are rushing for as much turret gold onto Zenit as possible. And surprise, surprise, with the Rift Herald, I think they win this race.
I think they will just explode that top tower. Can look for the second crit as well. That second tower, giving the empowered 600 gold over to anyone nearby, would be a huge gain for the Aphelios. Something not often discussed on latest patches. There were changes to infrastructure, which always make a big difference in the long term. Looks like Hawk's giving this one up. Gonna respect that the V3 are showing up in numbers.
Yeah, V3, you did see the likes of Ace and their jungler rotating up, saying, hey, look, if you commit to this charge, you're going to have to deal with a Diana diving on your face with an Orianna ball shockwaving the crap out of you. How do you like those odds? And Hawk said, look, no, we don't want that at all. Quickly packs up shop, goes home. Smart call, take what you can, and then do not stay around any longer than is necessary.
Oh yes, take what you can and get nothing else. Oh wait, no, I've forgotten the way that saying goes. As Dasher takes a shockwave, a little bit presumptive from Ace. I think trying to bait in the longer fight, even without any teammates nearby playing that close to a tower, can get cooldowns out from Dasher, but instead shockwave just a little presumptive. We are in a lull state, so it will return before any major points of contention. A sign that V3 maybe just want to relax out in their lanes. Corporal's still not level 6.
Wait for it. Wait for that level 6, although that level 6 might be bait, because look who is lurking. Much like Tussle was lurking in mid, a certain jungler is lurking in bot. Corporal. V3 are playing this really, really well. They're saying, come on, step up. But look at the way Hawks playing. They can smell it in the water, right? Look at how defensive they are. They're not trying to make sure that wave crashes. They're like, look, you can try and freeze, that's fine, but something's up. Because if there was no backup here, you'd have continued to retreat to your turret. That is standard. You're doing something weird.
I think Corporal knew it was too good to be true. Like, dinged 6, both players across from you in a perfect position to all in on a solar flare if you were feeling the 2v2. He's just like, no, you know what? This smells. I'm not going to do it today.
Something ain't right, boys. Let's get out of here. But it's really good trigger discipline there. But Ace now in trouble once again. Tussle flashing in there. Flash out. The shockwave come through, but it's not going to matter. Ace gets cut down. Dasher says it may not be first blood, but it's the first kill for my team.
Can't argue with the mid lane presence there. The lurking from Tussle worked out in the end. Corporal, now that he sees the enemy jungle on vision, this Diana spotted down on the top side. We'll go for that 2v2, pushing it forwards. That's kind of what we like to see into the Rel. She does get a really reasonable amount of statistics if you let her play the lane slowly, more versatile than the Leona, and will slowly eke out an advantage. Even if Leona is favored in the moment to moment, Unica has shown on vision. I don't know if they spotted that pink ward.
Unica?
And you know what? It happens. It happens. It
Well,
happens.
so
We're into playoffs pressure midnight, and
I can understand that. Like I remember, I can't
Yeah.
remember which jungler it was, but it was an either current or former pro jungler who says that you spend more time looking at the lane than you do your own camps in a professional match. So
Yep.
like, as silly as that looks, oh hold up, Ace is getting ganked again. Shockwave comes out early, but there is no escaping an angry catfish. Not when he gobbles you up. Dasher has all the CC in the world there and just cuts them down. Apperman says, well, that's a good little snack for now. I'll be back later.
the versatility of the Kench getting out of lane, even though he's suffering against Cogsnar, pushes it onto mid. It's a bit misleading from a spectator's point of view or a Tom Kench player's point of view. That disc we see is the first half and second half. Opponents only see the second half, so not much warning when that catfish jumps on you. And unfortunately, Ace bearing the brunt of Hawks' attention so far this game. They burnt flashes, they burnt ultimates. Ace has played it relatively respectfully, more respectfully than I would have. And it is still a little too much for this Orianna. Yumika's been found.
Yeah, been caught out here. Dasher says, look, anything you can do, mate, I can do better. You can't escape on the blast plant even. The Hawks. We know they're an aggressive team. We know that for them to do well, they have to kick things off early. Well, they've pretty much said where Dasher is, the enemy die. And it looks like Corporal and Tussle may... I don't think they're going to dive this, but their dragon is spawning in 10 seconds. And with the most recent pickoff, and their ward, I believe is... Oh, no, their ward's not up there anymore. But they're still in a great position as Cog tries to get something on Apperman, but yeah, Catfish don't give a damn.
It doesn't give a damn.
my
The
God,
non-committal
Ace,
position-
Ace again!
Oh, not again, buddy. That's a little bit sad. We're seeing a little of the vulnerability of Orianna this year. There's a reason she hasn't been so evergreen. Very easy for most meta picks to dive on her, make her life very difficult. To succeed as an Orianna, you really need either to pull your jungler in front of you, as Reyna, it does connect.
My God, Dasher almost running Reyna down, but what an aggressive move out of the Hawks here. And again, it's probably the most vulnerable member of V3, right? Hollow does have a Rel playing bodyguard duty there, but the Orianna, we talked about it earlier, she doesn't have a dash. She doesn't have... Sure, Dissonance is a good movement speed ability, but it's not a dash. It's a tiny little bit of movement speed where your ball has to be on you.
We can compare it to the peer. Yeah, the peers across from you. Silas has 2 dashes and one of them, well, 3 if you include the Kingslayer. One of them, the lock-on with a stun. It's just so difficult for the Orianna to deal with. Silas generally favored into these control mages for that ability to do what they do better. V3 going, oh gosh, they don't scored.
Not again, guys. V3. I understand they're in a really difficult position here, right? New jungler coming in for one of the most important BO5 series you've played as a team, because obviously this, if you can get through these games, Worlds is sitting at the end of it, right? Like these games have so much riding on the line for them that you're thinking to yourself, if you're Ace, if you're Hollow, hell, if you're the poor jungler here, you're thinking, oh god, this is my first game as a professional this year on the main stage. It's a quarterfinal series. We can't lose this.
No, like you've spent an entire split working up to this. This is the celebration. This is what everything has come together for. Cog will be spotted, but we'll spot out the ward, so this flank on mid won't occur so immediately. It's so scary that like you've spent an entire split working up to this. This is the culmination of your work. This is the final form. You've got DFM and Rascal Jester looking down at the end. These teams have struggled against somewhat. This Dasher just applies a little bit of pressure. We'll stop Reyna coming forwards.
I like that. I like that pressure from Dasher here, but I feel like if you just send Dasher bot lane, who handles him? Because it's certainly not Ace. Not in this situation, but instead they're looking for Cog here. Do get a lot of damage down. The Moonlight Vigil with the Infernum gets a nice chunk. Cog is gonna have to recall, and V3 have to really consider, well, what are we doing? You're J-ramming while Apperman is just, vibing top lane. Look at the camera. Like, Cog's like, crap.
That advantage that Cog works so hard to generate. Slowly burned away. As the Hawks, even though they are applying that pressure, able to farm an extra lane. Shockwave will deny Dasher coming forwards. The Herald not going too far, not able to generate much in the way of an advantage, but used before its cooldown. Or a chunk of 10.
Every time.
Ace,
Every time
Ace
Dasher
was
throws
really
those chains
worried
out,
there.
man.
He's like, is his flashback up? I don't know. I'm gonna like just move into the wall just a little bit. Just a little bit. Look at that XP differential between the mids. We see the tops neck and neck. Apperman's drawing slightly ahead of Kokog. Ace is over a level down. Let's call that a level and a half neat.
Yeah. So that's basically level 13 on Dasher there. It's going to be... He's going to get them from probably just one Krug. And that is very typical of the Hawks here, let's be honest with ourselves. When you look at this team, we talked about Dasher has the highest first blood percentages out of mid lanes, third highest in the league in the regular season. Like, if the Hawks are doing something, Dasher is in some way involved. Currently sitting at 100% kill participation, 1 kill and the 3 assists sitting in his back pocket. All courtesy of ganks, basically, in his middle lane to boot. So
I believe it's been the way all season. The Hawks load up Dasher with resources as best they can, and when that fails, we tend to see them fall down a little more. But when they load up Dasher, when they make him this hyper carry, this sort of enabled player who can just walk against any single member of his opponents, even maybe 2 members at this stage, draw their attention, and go even or better, it makes the rest of the map so much better to play.
Because your V3 are put in the position where they have to ask themselves, okay, if Dasher is on a side lane, which in my opinion he should be right now, who handles him? We talked about before, we've seen Ace is just not in that position. Orianna as a champion can't be put in that position. So you're either forced to put Hollow and Reyna down there, which you really don't want to do, or you're forced to gank with Cog, and it's like, well, that's really far from ideal coming into the fight here. So V3 are put in a few awkward situations where they have to decide, well, how do we lose as few things as possible coming up? And they're going to have to make the decision soon. The JRAM kicks off 20 seconds until the Mountain Dragon. It's a JRAM. It's been going on for the last couple minutes here.
It is a
It's the
JRAM.
signature of the region.
Dash is assigned away with that teleport now, so it can do a little more perhaps. Then it should be able to clear this wave.
Ooh.
Corporal engages.
Yeah, so left onto Reyna, but the turret does go down, but they are committing to the fight, but there's no TP. Hawks look out of sync. I don't know what's going on. Dasher has no interest in joining it, and Corporal loses his life. The Hawks lose the turret. The TP coming in now to contest the Dragon here. I don't know what's going on in the Hawk comms, but they're going to have to shore things up a little bit here, because that was just odd.
Desynchronized, the word you used. Spot on the money. Corporal, when you engage like that with the Leona, as they go straight for the trade Zenit, opening up on the Baron V3, they're wise to it. With that engage, Corporal still running from base. Softbank Hawks, this is brave in every sense of the word. A V3 just gonna let it chunk them down. Dash is out.
Oh no. Yeah, they're going to go right onto Ace. Ace forced to flee for it. Does get the flash safety. TP coming though, and this TP could be deadly. Cog is Omega now, but he is still low. A couple shots from Zenit will cut him down to size. But remember, V3 fight best in choke points. Orianna, Rel, Meganar. And it will simply result in a burnt TP from Cog. No dragon secured. And once again, the only real casualties was Corporal from earlier and the turret to boot.
Tier 1 going down. Not the end of the world, but as we noticed, it doesn't make V3's life a little easier. Just knowing that they can get at least a little vision to know where these diving threats are. Anyone who crosses the mid lane in JRAM fashion. It's... Yeah. I don't know. Like, we should be seeing V3 struggle here. I feel like Zenit needs to be more confident, especially with that mid T1 take. When you've got the Tom Kench next to you, just play straight up in someone's face. The worst thing that's happening is you getting moved with a shockwave. Dasher is in deep.
Oh, V3 have to be so careful now. Where do you put your focus? You don't want to get caught by Dasher. The dragon resets. You are stuck in the pit, but Cogmore is Meganar. Dasher could look for something and instead chooses to back away. The play-by-play in me wants the fight, man, but I do think it's the best call of action. V3 get away with the objective, and the Hawks, for all their posturing, were not able to get the fight.
Weren't able to get in. I think another transfer to the Baron, when you've got members on Softbank Hawks that heal for such a significant amount of their health, even in combat. I'm looking especially at the Volibear here. Baron take is really quite simple if your opponents can't see it start up. would have liked to have seen another transfer up there. At least the threat to draw in a favorable fight, as we noticed there. They weren't able to dive on into the pit the way they were assigned across the river. With Dasher on his own would mean that he would have to start off something so favorable and then have all the CC layered on top. It makes it a little difficult walking towards the Rel, towards the Gnar that want you to come towards them. Then it really just makes it so much more difficult. So instead, having them come in to you blind at the Baron, even giving away the dragon, maybe the next angle. As Dasher is waiting to see what he gets. He's fishing.
You're looking for Ace there. The shotgun doesn't connect though, and now he's been completely flanked here. Dasher is going to go down for his artwork. The Zonya's to buy time. Corporal is posturing forwards. Actually might get out alive. The rest of the Hawks come to the safety. Woohoo! That was a close to Mega Death Rocket, but unfortunately close is no cigar.
No cigar, blind into the night. The rocket will fly on as the Hawks get away. They've rescued Corporal Dasher.
Oh, but this could be something. Ackerman's in trouble. Force the Flash. Cog does not get the Gnar ultimate down, and V3 are looking hungry for fights. We talked about the effectiveness of their team fight composition. I called it the Venn diagrams of death with all the circles they've got available to them. But for all of the poking, for all of the looks, they haven't really found a proper team fight yet. Like, they got some good skirmishes, but that was mostly the Hawks starting it.
Mostly. Ace up on this top side. I think we're missing a key component here from the Hawks' ability to play side lanes. We haven't seen a roaming death squad get some vision into V3's jungle that would allow Dasher to extend this lead, really go aggressive in the side lane, and then warn him with ample time when members of V3 are moving to assist, creating numbers advantage elsewhere. And at this stage, Zenit is enabled on the Aphelios. We have 2 items. I want to see that Aphelios deal a bunch of damage, play those small team fights. It's not like the remaining members of V3 would be able to dive, but Cog is...
Yeah, Cog's all fourth. The Flash actually does get out, courtesy of the Mega Gnar transformation. Really well done there. Ultimate use for Tussle. And of course, Dasher did steal one just to see if he could get away with it. But again, Cog Flash burnt. Great. But now something else needs to come of it, right? Remember what we saw in the early game, sorry. Ace got his Flash burnt. Ace got the crap kicked out of him in the middle lane. I kind of want to see that on the side lane now. Like, find the guy on his own. And for the Hawks, you gotta pick on him at this point because unfortunately, V3's team fight composition, it's starting to look really good.
It
Howell
will
has
look
2
good.
items.
There is the caveat that they still need to play around the anti-dive combination here with Kench Aphelios. The Kench is a full solo lane one as well. Cog's opening up on Dasher. That's not a win till V3 arrive.
Yeah, but the problem is that Dasher knows it's coming in and has to be so careful there, but instead gets Mega Gnar'd into the wall and will Zonya's to buy a little bit of time here. The Hawks have to get Baron started. Is it what? Dasher, no! You can't do that, Dasher! Makes it a 1-for-1 trade. Now the Hawks are on Baron. V3 are forced to respond. What was that? Oh my god, Solar Flare Hollow. Ace is in trouble once again. Hawks say, screw the Baron, going for the fight. Diving on top of the room there. Ace is going to get cut down aside. They dive in with the Venn diagrams. Hollow is safe in the back line, but Hollow needs to stay alive. Zenith, though, has that chakrams. V3 are forced to run for it. Uni dives into the back line, but gets gobbled up by Ackerman. You can't touch my carry when it's in the Tom Cage ballet. Zenith is going to cut them down. Hollow is going to get tagged by the Tom Cage. Gets out in one piece. The only member of the 3 to do that one. But holy hell, Zenith, hiding on this Aphelios, did God's work in that fight.
V3 really need to use everything they've got. Otherwise, every single team fight with this Aphelios is going to look like that. Softbank Hawks know exactly what they were doing there, taking that fight. They generate a small numbers advantage. They pull 2 members down to bot. They go 1-for-1 on Dasher with a clutch moonfall. It looked oh so crispy.
I need to see
Let's
this. How
play
does he do
it
this?
back. Trades even. It goes down to low. This is Anya's so perfectly framed cancelled after stealing that moonfall. And then with all of the damage coming through, manages to explode the key team fight ultimate in Cog's Mega Gnar. Now, even though Corporal got the cleanse out there, you're fighting in a choke. You're fighting where the Aphelios wants to be. If those clutch ultimates you mentioned in the choke from V3 aren't layered up, aren't set through, then Zenit will just continue to dance through this V3 composition.
Ooh. Yeah, well, Well, V3 take themselves the Dragon. Cole goes near Mega Nut. They gotta be careful. Corporal goes in though, but this could be risky as the rest of the Hawks look like they want nothing to do with the fight here. Corporal once again going for the engage and being left behind by the rest of the Hawks who just don't want it. Again, this was a bit of miscommunication. These are the mistakes I would expect from V3 with the jungler who's being subbed in for today's game. But the Hawks, I can't tell if they're being perched in different trees or different nests at this point.
It is slightly difficult when you're on this layer of Leona player where you're just trying to engage on a front line. Rel is incredibly effective against the pick. Okay, Hawks are teleporting in off vision. They have to try and contest this. 3, 2.
Tussel's going in, but Tussel's taken down low there. A nice Moonlight Vigil, but there's not enough damage coming through. The Baron is aggroed up still. It is going to be secured, but will they get out alive? V3 are taking down low. Dash is charging forwards. Oh, Dash gets into the backline. This is massive because now the rest of the Hawks are going to be able to follow up here. A dive forward from Eppman. Unity a jump to the side. Hollow's on another side. They are so split up from V3. There is only survival in their minds. Hollow says, I will be the sacrifice. I will be the tribute for my team as one man gets out ace with the Baron buff. Corporal is a hungry man hunting down the enemy jungler. But a TP from Apperman says, buddy, get in my belly. Get over here. It's snack time for the Tom Kench.
We'll take out Unica. And an unfortunate Baron power play gone wrong. Ace will, of all the people to survive from V3 after he's been pushed on this game time and time again, Ace will be the one to survive this time. We'll see Softbank Hawks come in for the vanilla Baron contest. The front line tries to get Zenit in. The ball denies him, slows him down. Moonfall will only hit Reiner. And at this stage, Dash knows it's do or die. The Baron is gone. Will walk forwards with that Magnet Storm. Look for the Zonyas to get his team to follow up. And even though he takes out Reiner, this long delay, we have to wait for Apperman to come forwards, break V3 open in a way they can't come back together. If those three came back together to try and rescue Hollow, Dasher was going to have a field day. So they take out that key carry. They give the 950 gold shutdown over to this Silas that is so accelerated. And at this stage, even though that's a Baron power play, for V3, you'll notice in the top right corner of your screen, they're at a 2,000 gold deficit with that shutdown.
Well, that might have something to do with, losing the following team fight, losing 4 out of 5 members, losing a turret, only 1 member getting the Baron buff. Oddly enough, Baron buff doesn't work nearly as well when only 1 person has it. This might be a revolutionary concept, but unfortunately, it does mean that V3 have got one choice to make. Group is 5. Hawks have to be careful because look who's bot lane again, but no TP for Dasher.
Are you inviting the J-Ram mid lane?
At this point, when you've got 1 Baron buff and a TP and a split pushing champion with no teleport, unfortunately, yes, I am.
All right, that's fine. What else can you do with 1 Baron buff? Unfortunately, it's definitely not the power play V3 were going for. They do take it off the board, and with the Hawks coming up at this advantage, even though the gold lead's only 2,000, compositionally, the Hawks are getting what they were going for. And as handily we will see here, red team very favored at the moment. Oh no, he's kind of pushed it together, hasn't he? Blitzcrank, but you really like V3, and I really don't know why.
He's feeling confident, and I don't necessarily blame him. Yes, I'm a fan of the Hawks, but look at what V3 have got brought to the table. They're only 2k gold down, but Mountain Soul is the next dragon in less than a minute, and Mountain Soul is invaluable with the amount of protection that it can provide, even to someone as squishy as Hollow or Ace, right?
They really, Hawks won't be allowed that dragon to happen at this stage.
Look at them now.
That's nearly level 18. That's nearly a level 18 Silas. His closest rival is far, far behind him. What is each level worth? I can't remember. I think it's a few thousand gold once you tally up every single statistic. So let's say the lead is in Dash's XP bar right now.
Yeah, Hawks now luring V3 down towards the dragon, saying, come on, we know you want to come this way. Give up mid priority. Cog, though, is the big one. That is Meganar procced at the worst possible time now. Because now you need to go, you need to lure the Hawks in, or you need to back the hell up. Those are your 2 options. And it looks like V3 are charging forwards, but Cog needs to go now because there is a massive timer until the next Meganar comes available. And Hawks, They damn well know it.
Well, there is no timer on Dash's version of the Mega Gnar as he flanks
Oh, God.
around. Solar Flare will
Oh.
delay.
Isn't zoned out completely. The Flame Chompers doing a good job, though, stopping the Hawks on the counter-attack. Dasher says, well, what do you want, guys? 1v3, what are you going for? You're going to push mid? We're going to flank you if you do. Be careful. A lot of excitement could come out in the next couple seconds if V3 are not careful. Cogcog building up that Mega Gnar bar coming through. As yes, that's exactly what it sounds. Zenit leading the charge. Oh my lord! Tearing apart Rain and V3. Oh my god, Zenit, no! Gets covered up by Appleman as the rest of the Hawks come in for the save. The Corporal diving off in the backline does keep them safe as Dasher does it once again. Looks like the Hawks are in control of the fight. Zenit, the man who started it, as Dasher gets access to the backline. Goodbye, V3. You fought a hell of a dragon dance. You did damn well, but the nerves of Zenit got the better of him. Appleman comes in, gobbles up his teammate, and now the base of V3 is looking vulnerable.
That's what I wanted to see at the early mid tier 1 tower take. Zenit on this Aphelios is so ridiculously enabled by his teammates. The anti-dive well and truly there. As Appleman shows us the real power of the catfish. I know it's not a zodiac animal, but the rest of this year will be the year of the catfish, no matter what. It is just absolutely incredible what Riot Games have done to a champion that had 2 health bars. They gave him a 3rd. And that will be the V3 base. Cracked open. Hawks won't overextend. We'll look for the next fight instead. But with the independent diving member of the Silas, this is what you need to do on an Aphelios in the late game. You play it forwards. He's invulnerable at this stage. Even though all of these cooldowns are thrown his way, Appleman has his back. And there is nothing you can do to get him out of that belly.
I mean, part of me does think that this might be playoff nerves getting to Zenit a little bit. That flash just kind of looked so tunnel visioned. It looked like he could
exactly
only
what you
see
needed.
Reyna. I mean, it did work, don't get me wrong.
As
but
soon
it
as
felt very
Appleman's
tunnel
flash is
vision.
confirmed, you could just follow it. You just get in there, man. Just completely take off. And it's reflected in what Zenit's got right now. Nearly full build, 6-0 and 3. Truly the sleeping part of Softbank Hawks that has scaled up over this game comes up behind Dasher now. And when you have these 2 enabled carries, like one with items, one with experience and items, it is just so scary. Like, I don't think there is a serious way for V3 to dive in on this with a dive composition and win.
Oh no, they have no idea Dasher's on the flank. This could actually be disaster. The Hawks hurt now. This could actually be disaster. Ace and Holo left in the backline. Dasher could have gone for them, but chose not to. As the rest of the Hawks dive into the front line, Dasher is still lurking on the sideline. V3 are backing away. Holo almost gets caught with the chains, but does dodge out. Dasher taken low, but not taken down. As the rest of V3 back away, the Hawks back away as well. What could have been a final fight. I got so hyped, man. I thought that was the final fight coming through.
I think if V3 pushed the issue, it would have been. But the Hawks, very relaxed right now. They know they have to... When you have an XP lead, you need to keep your momentum up, because eventually your opponent will catch up. They will gain some experience. And with that inhibitor mid lane, you're getting a super minion in every time onto whoever you assign there. Maybe the bonus, they didn't take the second one until closer to that dragon.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the level on the side. Look at that.
Yep.
The closest to a Dasher isn't even level. It's Appleman, who's nearly level 17. Zenit, who just started level 16. And then, of all people, Ace, the man who got abused for the first 10 minutes of the game, is leading the charge for the likes of V3.
I'm amazed they pulled Cogcog out of lane for long enough for Ace to catch up, to be honest. Zenit will be receiving the remainder of the experience in mid. We'll look to try and get that Aphelios 218. A little more base stats here for our boy with the blue hair. V3, I'm going to finish this. Surely. Surely, it's getting close.
Yeah, well, Cogcog gets engaged on. Dasher looks for the flank here. V3 are in a rock and a hard place. Dasher messes up the combo, though, but still has zone use to buy time. Hawks need to go over there and back up their star mid laner, but will they get there in time? It looks like yes, they will. As the rest of Hawks over there, they get ripped apart! They get torn apart by Holo! And the Baron gets in there to help out V3. Say thank you very much, guy, as that is going to be a wipe there. Zenit doing the best that he can, but it gets pulled in. Appleman, the last man standing, not able to do the job, as Holo and Baron dismantle the Hawks in a team fight.
I am going to give huge props to Ace there. The shockwave at long range slowed down Dash's reinforcements. And when you dive on your own, use the Zhonyas to buy time. The rest of your team actually have to catch you up eventually. Otherwise, you are just on your own. And with that, with Baron attacking the multiple carries of Hawks and a clutch Super Mega Death Rocket, as a Cup Noodle Baron power play comes through. It's positive this time, Midnight.
Oh no, this dragon! That could be soul as well, but look at the base! Wait, the base! This could actually be a Nexus turret for the Dragon Soul. Relatively weapon V3, but okay, we have the replay. I feel like
let's
it's fair
watch
to talk
this.
about...
Let's watch it. They lose
Yep.
the Nexus Tower. They will get Soul. Dasher comes in super deep. Corporal opens up in the front line. Zenit's still exactly where he wants to be. Dasher's cooldowns go a little wide, and Sombrero's real bad. Tussle and Corporal were looking to catch up there. That Shockwave was the difference this fight. Notice that Softbank Hawks are currently tanking Dragon. That's a third of Zenit's health to a neutral objective. They can't move forwards now. Hollow gets the reset on those early separated members. Upperman, a little too quick on the Devour, tries to get himself out of dodge as well. And all cancelled away. V3 mopping up the fight. And now, with this Mountain Soul, that is one tanky Gnar. I still think Hawks have the onus here. They still have the ability to play through this. But with each thing that V3 claws back, each bit of experience on the map, that potential for the turnaround, as we saw it there, the cleanup fight from the Jinx, the opening up from Ace, gets scary to scarier.
Hawks almost got Mega Gnar too. This could be a bit of a problem. The Hawks are getting run down, and they're not going to be able to defend this turret either. So V3 in a great position here. Dasher, I feel like the pressure's getting to him. We've seen play after play where Dasher's just made a few basic mistakes, and unfortunately, that's what a finals does to you. It takes you regular games where you're calm, you're more composed, maybe you're a bit more relaxed, and then slaps on the, hey, that every mistake you make, you're going to get further away from the thing that you have spent God knows how long working for, months, years. So don't make any mistakes. And oddly enough, when you tell someone not to stare at the elephant in the room, the first thing they do is look for the elephant in the room.
There's an elephant. Oh my goodness. Yeah, exactly. Always the same. Now, Hollow, one thing Hollow does do better is hit towers, but Tussle is up in the front. Will fall it back.
Yeah, turret goes down there. Tussle looked for something. Wasn't able to find a Cog. Gets 2 into the walls. Then it is safe though for now, but needs to continue to be. V3 almost like Dasher going into the line, gets a Knight into the wall, but it's not the priority target that they're really looking for. But Zenit is safe, so is Hollow. Shockwave whiffs completely, and that could be a disaster there. V3 getting run over. The front lines are holding for Hawks, but so is Cog. They're finally falling down. V3 have found their opening, and even with a substitute jungler coming in, V3 kick off this best-of-5 series with a win under their belt.
Full reversal here for V3. They will take out Hawks as they finally counter the dive from Dasher. They find Zenit, and with that, they will turn it around and take a game one that's got to have dealt some damage to the Hawks.
Yeah, and for the Hawks, the nerves that were coming into that series, man, you can see it. Some plays just uncharacteristic mistakes, specifically out of Dasher in that middle lane. I'm sure there's going to be a replay of it where you saw the Orianna ball when he's on the flank, but when you're that flanking player, you have got so much pressure on you. You've got to get the execution right. You've got to get those chains. You've got to get in, catch them all, pull them in, set up for the rest of your team. And if you misplay that, the rest of the fight goes downhill. And that's all on one man. That's all on Dasher. And that has got to be the pressure that sort of broke Hawks when stuff looked so good for them.
We'll be back after a short break as V3 look to maybe defy all expectations, even as from the middle of that game, as they continue on to game 2 in this series.